Hey y'all, it's DrKnowItAll. So I had a thought last night as I was sleeping, and we are returning from Florida. This is the Brunswick, Georgia Supercharger station, which has 24 250 kilowatt charging stations. Pretty cool. But anyway, I was woke up in the middle of the night, because that's the kind of stuff I randomly do, and was thinking about the Cybertruck. And I was thinking to myself, wait a second, the Cybertruck is going to be a problem with superchargers, because, let's take a look over here, and I know I can't like rotate the camera, which is unfortunate, but if we look down here, you can see, if you don't know this already, the supercharger cable is very, very, very short, right? The one that goes from the charger to your car. So it requires a degree of accuracy to be able to get it to work properly. And it requires you to back into most spots that have superchargers are like this, where you back in. There are some pull forward ones, and this one is actually a pretty good one, because you can see that there's an island there. Sometimes the islands are very, very close, and so you only have a really small amount of room to back up. So if you had a larger car like a Cybertruck, it would be a problem. The other thing that I thought about that is a major issue for travel, and not just for a Cybertruck, but especially for a Cybertruck, is a trailer. And as it so happens, this just complete random coincidence, somebody happens to be here. So this one actually has two pull-aheads most of the time, and what that means is that you can see that the actual charger itself, let's see if I can find it, it's right there. The charger itself is in a spot where you could pull forward with a trailer. And so that actually works out really, really well. This one has two. The one that we have near our house only has one of those pull forwards, and some of them, as far as I know, don't have any. Actually, I just realized there's actually a third one right there. So there's actually three pull-ahead chargers here. So this is really well suited for people who have trailers or something like that. But again, with a Cybertruck, it's going to be problematic, because this is a Model Y over here. So you can see the Model Y, and it's basically all the way up to the curb. And the part where the supercharger cable has to go into is pretty much, at the, like, I don't know, it can't go much further back. And again, let's just take a look at this, just for examination here. You can see that this cable can only extend maybe 3 or 4 feet, maybe a little bit over a meter. So it's a pretty minimal amount of extension that you've got for these cables. And so my fear is that what'll happen is, with a Cybertruck, the Cybertruck is going to be too big. Even if you put it into a pull forward one like that, it's going to actually be too long, and so the cable's not going to be able to reach that. So I think Tesla's got a significant issue in terms of dealing with how they're going to figure out how to extend the cables. And maybe what they're going to have to do is actually include with Cybertrucks some sort of an extra, like maybe 2 meters of extra cable, just like an extension cord basically, that you can plug into superchargers, and they may just have to include that with Cybertrucks. Now, I would imagine over time what they will do is they will build these stations more and more friendly to Cybertruck. The other option or possibility is that what they'll do is they'll put the charging thing, pretty much every Tesla has their charging port on the back driver's side, at the very, very back. And on the Cybertruck, they could do something like where they do on a pickup truck, where they put the charging port a little bit further forward. Now, that really wouldn't help out very much for situations like this, where the car has to back in anyway. Or maybe they could actually have 2 charging port areas or something like that. I just don't know. Like the one that we go to in Beaufort, Georgia, would be really, really difficult for a Cybertruck. I don't even know if it would be able to fit, because if you've got your standard size parking spaces that these go into, and these are actually slightly smaller. The parking spaces are really, really small here. So it's very unclear how the Cybertruck would fit in, how the cable itself would reach there, and how it would deal with trailers. Again, the pull forward trailer, there's a cute puppy in that one now, but the pull forward trailer is actually brilliant, and it works really well with a Model 3 or a Model Y, but it's not going to work with a Cybertruck, because the Cybertruck bed sticks out so far. So it's going to be a problem to pull into the pull forward ones. I'm going to add a little addendum here. I spoke to the lovely couple that was driving their their Model Y with the trailer. The trailer was built in like the early 1970s, clearly not designed for electric car pulling. But they told me that they only get 100 miles. So they're trying this for the first time. They're going from Florida to the mountains in North Carolina. But they're only getting 100 miles. So this car, you know, this Model Y is rated to 326. Realistically speaking, we're looking at like 250-ish or something like that, right? If you're using it driving 80 miles an hour on the highway. But so they're basically losing almost 2/3, probably not quite 2/3, but they're losing almost 2/3 of their range to drive it. And I asked them about the experience of doing the whole thing with like charging, and they said that they had a problem in terms of pulling in and then of course having to pull back out again, and that even the pull-in chargers, the head-in ones like the ones that they were using there, are problematic because you still have to back out and it's an issue. And they said what I thought also, which was that Tesla should design like gas stations where you have straight pull-throughs, right? So you pull in, you pull up to the spot where you need, and then you continue going when you get done to pull out. So rather than having everything backed up, it would be very, very useful to have a few of those pull-through stations at each of the charging locations. So that would be one thing for sure. The other one is that they said that they have definitely had issues with having some of the superchargers that don't have the pull-ins, the head-in ones, that they've actually had to disconnect their trailer from the Model Y, turn around, charge it, pull it back out again, and reconnect the thing. And that's a giant pain in the butt. So that's not something that people are going to be happy about. Also, this car is driving and it just cut somebody off, so I'm sure that person's not going to be pleased about that. Anyway, so that's number two. And number three, they said in one instance when the superchargers were all basically empty, they just pulled in sideways and they charged up that way. And so you can certainly do that. But the issue with that, of course, is that it's being very rude because you're probably taking up about 4 or maybe 5 stalls. So if it's like only an 8-stall place, you're going to be taking up an awful lot of charging stalls by pulling in sideways. So anyway, so it was very interesting to find out about that. A little disheartening to find out they were only getting 100 miles of range. Now, they did have, again, a camper that was basically a giant wall that they were pulling, and the air resistance at 80 miles an hour is going to be horrendous with that thing. So it's definitely going to cut down on your range. So I think still that a teardrop camper with like a low profile on the front that goes up and has a much better aerodynamic profile would be good. But you're probably still looking at only 150 miles range. And again, that you have to fill up the entire battery, which takes a really long time. That's on the order of 40 minutes or so to fill up from empty to completely full. So that's a super extra amount of time. Whereas if you're driving a car like this, right, without pulling something and you have longer range, you can go and you can fill up to 80%, and that part goes much, much faster. So interesting talking to them about this. We've wanted to try with a trailer, and maybe what we need to do is just borrow one from somebody and not really take it on a long trip, but take it on a short trip and just find out how bad the range goes down so that we have an estimation of it, because they were very, very worried. They're going to Asheville and then to Hendersonville, North Carolina, and they were really worried after they got to Asheville, the last supercharger there, that they were going to have a serious problem getting up to wherever it was that they were going in Hendersonville and still having enough range to come back down again and get back to the supercharger. So interesting things. So anyway, I thought I would throw that in since the couple was very, very lovely and talked to me about that. I thought I would insert that into this video because it was really useful information. So for anybody who's looking to pull an actual trailer with a 75 kilowatt hour battery pack, you probably want to make sure that it's a very low profile trailer, or one that's, a modern one that's as aerodynamic as possible. So anyway, they did tell me that there are newer trailers now that will regeneratively charge up a battery pack in the trailer itself that's underneath the trailer as you drive. So it will regeneratively charge that thing up. It doesn't charge your car, but if you came upon a situation where you're like, oh crap, I'm completely out of power, you could actually then route it from the trailer into your car, and you could, add something to your car so you can get to your next destination. So anyway, that's an extra little tidbit too. I have not checked into that, but that would be a really cool thing if that does exist. But I think they said they were $50,000. So youch, that's as much as getting another car at that point. So I don't know. Anyway, interesting stuff. Thought I'd throw it into this video, so hopefully that's helpful information for some of you. Anyway, I hope Tesla's thinking about this. I'm not sure exactly what they're planning to do, but I would say, off the cuff suggestion is that what they need to do is include something like a 2-meter extension cord, which basically plugs into the supercharger cable and is just a 2-meter, cord, and you just keep it in the truck, and then you can just work that to the charging port of the Cybertruck so that you can actually extend the areas that you can supercharge in. But anyway, I assume that Tesla's thinking about this because of course they have their prototype trucks out. But if they're not, they definitely should think about this, and maybe they have a more brilliant solution than I'm thinking of. But at least my idea was, something that would cost them like $30 or $40, although with copper costing as much as it does these days, geez, who knows. But anyway, I'm thinking, $30 or $40 that they get an extension cord that's like a 2-meter extension cord, and then you can plug that into the supercharger and then from there into your Cybertruck, and that would allow it to charge up more quickly. So it would basically be like those little adapters that they include, except it's just a big long one. So anyway, I'm curious to know if anybody happens to have better ideas or happens to have any insider information, because of course there are prototype Cybertrucks out there, so they clearly have to be charged somewhere. So they must be thinking about this at this point. So I'd be curious to know if anybody has heard about that and has any ideas. Otherwise, as always, the basic deal. Thank you so much to my patrons on Patreon. You guys have been wonderful. This is going to be a little bit different coming up very soon. This little vacation that we did impromptu is the very, very end of the summer, and I'm going back to work in person for the first time in a year and a half. Tomorrow. So I'm going to drop down. I've been trying really hard to do 3 videos a week. I'm going to drop down to doing 2 videos a week. So this is Sunday when I'm recording this, but it'll be Monday when I release this, and then I'll probably do another one Thursday or Friday. I'll probably do one on Friday because I will be crying about the fact that haven't been invited to AI Day. And if I do get invited to AI Day, well, then I'll be jumping for joy. But otherwise, I'll also be scrambling for very, very last minute plane tickets. But anyway, in the meantime, what will probably happen is that I won't be invited to AI Day, but I will watch it live streamed. And so I will do a video on Friday. So anyway, Monday and Friday, or Monday and Thursday, will probably become the new standard for me, just because I'm going to become really, really busy at work. But anyway, in the meantime, I hope you all enjoyed this video and found it fun and informative. And I would, like I said, I would be really interested to find out what people think about the possibility of Cybertrucks. They are so much bigger. Every other Tesla has had the same basic form factor. Obviously, the smallest of those is the Model 3, and the largest of those is the Model X, but they're all within a pretty reasonable scale in terms of like their size differences, etc. But the Cybertruck is going to break that. It's got a 6-foot or nearly 2-meter bed, and it's really, really big. So it's going to be very difficult for them to do the pull-throughs. It's going to be difficult for them to do the head-ins. The rear ends, which are like this, are going to be okay, but it's going to, they're going to take up a lot of space, and they may stick out quite a bit in front of the parking areas. And they also may have problems with these islands because it can be very challenging to back the truck up. It can be challenging to back the car up if those islands are narrow enough. Now, of course, if they do implement something where you just push a button and the thing backs itself in and gets into the correct position, that would be fantastic, and that'll help a lot. But anyway, in the meantime, I would be curious to know what you think. Again, this was just some middle of the night thing that I woke up going like, how are they going to deal with this stuff? I assume that Tesla has thought about this before, but if not, you guys should definitely think about it. And I think my idea of the 2-meter extension cord is not a bad idea. 2 meters is just a guess. Obviously, you'd have to test it out. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments, and of course, you can always email me at DrKnowItAllKnows@gmail.com. Till next time, bye-bye.